Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome back to the weekend episode of VCTV. And very excited to have you back all on this episode to talk about tokenized future, tokenization of assets, and the disruption it's going to bring to the finance industry, to the financial industry. So before I start introducing my speakers, my name is, I just would like to introduce myself for those who may not know me. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LaToken VCTV in Singapore, and I host VCTV every day, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. Singapore. So I'm very excited to end my week on a topic which is making all buzz and news, and the future of tokenization of assets in the financial industry looks very bright, I would say. So let's discuss some insights. Before that, a little bit of a perspective on the tokenization. A tokenized future is upon us, allowing investors at any scale to participate in fractionalization of financial opportunities. Tokenized assets will help provide greater liquidity, better price discovery, faster and cheaper transactions, more transparency, and global accessibility. It could disrupt several asset classes that make up the multi-trillion dollar market for real world assets, bringing them into the digital age and transferring the value into highly liquid marketplaces. But how will tokenized assets progress in 2021? Which markets and organizations are at the forefront of that trend? And what does it mean for your existing stocks, real estate, commodities, and other investments? So let's discuss and hear insights from the speakers today on the panel. So let me, yes. Hi everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Great. So it's about tokenization of assets. I'm going to start with intro. Please, all of you, a little bit of background intro. Let's start with Harsh, who I can see first on my screen. Harsh, over to you.
Thanks, Sonny. Glad to be back. Glad to be with some familiar faces. Gary and Tushar, a pleasure as always. And the new face today as well. So looking forward to meet everyone. My name is Harsh Shetia. I'm a venture partner with R Ventures. I've worked with India's leading unicorn in fintech space, Paytm, as regional sales manager. So I do have a background in the fintech space. I work with Fortune 50 companies and currently I help startups. Currently I help Currently, I help startups raise funds all the way up to $10 million. So anyone in India looking to raise funds or need help, scaling their business, they can feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Harsh, and welcome back on VCTV. Now I have David Marshall from Trade Talk. David, welcome back on VCTV again. I had you once before, I think, on VCTV. How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. Really busy. I'm kind of trying to do a thousand things at once, but great to be here again. Quick intro. It's in particularly busy for us at the moment because at Trade Dog, or TDFi, we're co-sponsoring a major event in Dubai right now with the Agora Global Capital Group. We have some major projects out there at the moment. Some pretty exciting things going on. We're incubating our third cohort right now. We've had a number of very successful launches recently, and we couldn't be busier, obviously, with the market the way it is right now as well. It's just meaning everything needs to be expedited and sort of move through the kind of the development cycle so much quicker. So so excited to be here in a busy schedule. For those that don't know, we incubate, we accelerate, we also have capital raises, lots going on, and great to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Oh yes, the Agora DeFi conference, which is happening in Dubai. I'm so jealous that I can't make it this year. Otherwise, I'm always in Dubai for all the crypto and blockchain conferences. But I wasn't sure Trade Dog was a part of that as well. Good to know about that, David. How come you're not?
Yeah, so I mean, someone got the short straw, so I'm stuck in the UK. But I've been dialing in. I think we're going to be doing regular ones now. It's been super successful. So we did our first one just before the new year. That was an independent one, and it was kind of working with Agora and a few other the big funds out there. But obviously we've now officially partnered with Agora. I think we're going to be doing more. So I think there'll be another one in April, I think. So if you're able to make that, hopefully things will be a bit more flexible by then. But yeah.
I hope so. I look forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you, David.
No,
next I have Tushar. Tushar, welcome back. Happy Friday. How are you today?
Hi, Sunny. Glad to be back, especially when you are moderating. So, love the topic of discussion today because I believe NFT has a kind of future which dollar has seen in terms of usage since the advent of global economy. Myself, Tushar Kansal from Consultancy Ventures. We are an investment management firm driving equity investments and venture capital into tech and non-tech startups. Personally, I've worked with Deloitte and Touche, worked with India's largest venture fund called Brand Capital, and also headed treasury at Systema, the Russian company Systema's India unit, MTS India, and was CFO with a company called Distribution Logistics, which is owned by Guggenheim Partners. We help companies get investments, and we also help them get global investments along with consulting. So glad to be back and to be discussing this very interesting topic today.
Perfect. Thank you, Tushar, and welcome back to the weekend episode, I would say, of VCTV. All right. So next I have on my screen is Gary Fowler. Hi, Gary. Happy Friday, and welcome to VCTV.
Happy Friday. It's good to see some familiar faces. It's great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies. Have been fortunate enough to be involved in 2 unicorns, Click Software, which was sold for $1.35 billion a little over a year ago, and also Eva.ai, which is my AI HR tech company. Also write a lot. I'm actually writing right now about quantum tunneling and terahertz wireless communications, which are actually finishing today. And I love AI. AI is the new electricity, and quantum's going to change everything, entirely disrupt the planet. And it's happening today. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and president of GSD Venture Studios, a premier venture studios. We have companies in Africa, 3 companies, companies in Indonesia, companies in the US, Stanford, etc. So we curate those companies using Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world. And it's great to be here. And I've hundreds and hundreds of shows later, I feel like we're part of a family. I get up in the morning, I go to bed thinking about VCTV. I dream about VCTV.
Gary, it's Friday. You have to dance today.
I'm ready. Come on. Listen, I'll dance if you sing.
Gary, you sound like an infomercial.
We can have a group here today. How about that?
It sounds like an infomercial, right?
We can do an infomercial. I'll bring out my kazoo and we can do it together.
Let's do that. It's Friday, and let's do that at the end of the show.
There you go. Harsh is already ready, aren't you?
Harsh, do you want to start with that before I start any questions?
That's all right. You got it. Come on. Keep going. There we go. Come on. You got it now. You got the beat going. I can see you're ready now.
I wish I could get some.
Great. I love this VCTV family, as Gary says. We are all like so close to each other that honestly, it is a family. I don't know how things are going to shape out once we go back to the old normal, like the physical conferences.
We go back to the old normal.
that was the normal.
My philosophy class. We need some noise. The old normal's back.
Yeah, sort of.
I don't think it's going to happen for a long time, Sonny. I mean, the way the world's changing, the way this digital transformation is taking place now with Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else. I mean, this is happening very, very quickly. And, we're on the, tail end of something incredible, really. And it's not going to go back the way it was. Cross-border transactions are going to start taking place. The world's coming together as one. There's a bit of resistance, but it's happening right now. And VCTV is part of it. Do you like how I plugged VCTV?
I hadn't noticed, Gary. I hadn't noticed, to be honest. It's been quite subtle.
You didn't notice VCTV?
Have you got shares in VCTV or something? I think you
No,
should. They should give you some.
I feel like it's a family affair. Here we are together. We're here in this bonding experience in the morning, talking about things. By the way, I had a conversation with Kyle yesterday, and what we said is, through this pandemic, the one thing that's been really great is being able to share ideas. And I don't know about you, Sonny, but I get hundreds of contacts on LinkedIn. Every day I probably get 30 to 50. And they're coming from VCTV. And people are really happy because it gives hope. Because this is a great way for people. I'll look at where we are. I'm in Palm Beach in Florida. I mean, we're everywhere. Singapore, India. Being able to share ideas and people feel comfortable. They miss it.
Yeah, and UK. David is from UK. So David, you gave me an idea. Let's tokenize VCTV, and all of us hold a token of VCTV.
I thought you'd already done that. Didn't you already do that a few years back? But you do another one. Everyone.
We have our own
everyone
token.
Else is, yeah, everyone else is doing. Everyone else is doing it again 3 or 4 times over. So maybe it's time to do it again.
Yes. Very much noted. So, talking about tokenization, yay. So, what is the year 2021 like now? Is it the year of tokenized assets? That's the open question. Let's start with Harsh insights on that.
So, if you look at 2021, right, the year has started with a big bang. The year started primarily with Elon Musk making this huge announcement that it's going to buy $40 billion worth of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was obviously growing through 2020, and right now to 2021, the growth which happened was pretty staggering. It almost grew over 100%, right? And suddenly with this, you find all the latest, all the newest, largest companies in the world who are still kind of reluctant. They all made an announcement that they are getting into Bitcoin, right? So this is how big this has become. And tokenized economy is going to be definitely the future, right? Traditionally, you've had fiat currencies, fiat economies, where the central governments would control the banks, would control the financial system and the monetary system. And now it's going to be completely deregulated and in the hands of the people. And this is what the future is going to look like. And it creates a lot of interesting scenarios as well, right? Instead of having everything centralized at one place at a central bank, you have the people determining the value of the product which they want to buy and the value of the currency. So the opportunities it raises is really incredible. I would like to think a couple steps ahead as well. Imagine if Bitcoin becomes the mainstay. If Bitcoin becomes the mainstay and we have one company owning 40% of that assets, imagine the kind of power that this company could have in the overall way the global economy is shaped. So that also creates a huge interesting thoughts what it would go like. And Elon Musk must have to say there are people who kind of follow trends and become rich and make money, and there are people like Elon Musk who create trends.
Yeah, the news was massive, and I think the value of Bitcoin just surged up after that news. It has been surging up, for quite some time in the last few months. But yeah, that means obviously it looks bullish. The market looks green. Just a good news for all of us in that sector. Tushar, over to you. Thank you, Ash. Tushar, over to you.
So, Sunny, I used to work in this $3 billion treasury at the telecom company Aircel, and $2 billion treasury at the Russian company MTS, and all the other department guys like marketing, they used to think that what are these financial guys doing? What do they drink every morning that they don't look left and right? They keep on doing their work. And Main Street has always been wowed by Wall Street, and this time what has happened is that Wall Street has come closer to Main Street, in the sense that whatever financial uh, ways were there to manage money, to raise money, all those are now becoming accessible to a common investor, to an retail investor. NFTs are basically unique items, and they are hard to regulate for regulators, because they are non-fungible, they are non-replicable. And we are seeing that right from gaming to paintings to real estate to any kind of asset which had a proof of ownership in hard form, like a paper form, can now be converted into a digital ownership by the use of NFTs. So just like Rarible is the first community-owned NFT marketplace, there are sites like OpenSea, and a painting collector like Mr. Khurram Shroff, he owns a number of rare paintings. They can spend a few $1 million on collectibles, like paintings, like an investor did some time back on NBA collectibles. Halloween CDs are some collectibles which can be, so just like a diamond, which comes with a certificate that it is not a blood diamond, and there is a proof of chain of custody, so it has a certain value. So that kind of value can be replicated digitally using NFTs. And what happens usually in the financial system, without know your customer, without KYC, it is impossible to operate. But in this kind of NFT system, which is a DeFi based system, uh, the financial system cannot close their doors to you, and you can operate. So more things are going into bits and bytes from being on paper, like real estate. And without, with internet, information can be transferred and shared. But with the blockchain, assets can be transferred, and ownership can be proved. So look at the size of it. If you look at the assets in four main classes: real estate, commodities, equities, and cash and equivalents. There are over $500 trillion of assets which can potentially come on through the NFT route and become digital. And there are another $500 trillion worth of derivatives. They are very easy to transfer from wallet to wallet. And because in any change happens, everybody's ledger gets updated, so there is a proof and there is a trail of the transaction. So it is secure, it is digital, it's futuristic. And I see the trend only growing, because, as Harsh said, Bitcoin is piercing through the roof. Institutional investors are coming in droves towards this, and NFTs will only grow to much higher levels, and that's the right place to be if you want to be a futuristic investor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tushar, touching on NFTs in the opening remarks, because obviously I wanted to drill down about NFTs and the gaming space, because I've attended several conferences and I've read a lot as well. It's a very good space for investors, as you rightly said. Thank you so much, Tushar, for that. David, 2021.
Yeah, wow. Well, what a great start, right? I mean, there's so many thoughts going through my head, but I've had so many calls in the last like 3-4 months, and they've just ramped up. Like literally, my calendar is full from 7 a.m. Till, like, to be honest, I could stay up all night. And I'm talking to traditional companies in the IT space. So I also was a kind of owner of Linux IT. So we helped bring people like Red Hat and stuff into EMEA before they were, the first open source $1 billion company in terms of revenues. And I was talking to these companies. They're saying, yeah, we're using all these different, like, our own blockchains, but there's nothing really happening in the space. And I'm like, wow, this is the funny thing, right? They're telling me that they're going to governments because they're connected to, and they're UK based, by the way, they're connected to like government, industry, leaders, regulators, and all this stuff. and they're saying, they're trying to help change things right now. And I kind of just said, listen, I love your optimism, but you're wasting your time, because I worked in that industry. SIs control the whole ecosystem. They have no interest in adaptation. They have no interest in changing, because they have a monopoly. Okay, and it's the same thing with governments to a certain degree. It's this huge capitalism, crony capitalism, and why would you change that? Because it's a perfect fit for those guys. They control the whole thing. What I'm loving about this space at this moment in time, compared to maybe 2 years ago, in the last bull run, is DeFi has just completely changed the landscape for me. There's just innovation is happening so fast, so quick, and they don't care anymore. We're not worrying about going to regulators anymore. We're not worrying about trying to adapt to try and bring these kind of, if you like, old school crony capitalistic kind of structures to try and get them in. We're developing and we're adapting so fast at such a rate that they wouldn't even be able to catch up. They'd do a 10-year audit to try and figure out what happened in the first 3 days, and it would be a waste of time and money, right? And so we're seeing, with COVID, the perfect storm: a lack of transparency, a lack of confidence in establishment and governments and money. I mean, you go back 20, 30 years ago, kind of like my parents, sort of, if you like, period of time. If you were getting 5% yield on your money in the bank, that's amazing. That's what they were driving for. Now you can get 10, 15% on a blockchain or through some kind of yield aggregator. And this is what's so fascinating for me. And I'm so excited about where we're going, because yes, we're going through a cyclical bull run, and we always do. And there will be a downside. But in terms of the technology advancement and development, I think we're really starting to see now a breakaway. When I first came in the space a few years ago, I was kind of like, what we could do is we could be the bridge. We could bring the traditional space to us and all this stuff. And now we're kind of staying with tokenized assets. Why do you need to go equity? Why go to an exchange, spend all of that money, all of that time, all that regulation to then put your money into a stock market exchange, which most people have no confidence over? When you're seeing the traditional guys now, like Elon Musk and these other guys, they're bringing it over here. And to be fair, they've been doing it for a lot longer than just this month. I guarantee you that. They've been putting money into this space for way longer than people would imagine. The fact they're saying it now, I think they're just ready. But we haven't seen really any serious institutional money in. We haven't seen any serious tech companies come into this space. Not in any massive way in terms of huge adoption. But I don't care. I think the internal is growing so much faster. We're almost, people say it's kind of like Fintech 2.0 or whatever we want to call it, from the old .com. I think we're way past that. I think, we've got people now, spinning up projects that are actually delivering value right now. And you can do that in 2 or 3 days. I mean, how does that compare to the traditional world? It doesn't. So for me, 2021 is super exciting. I think irrespective now of what happens in terms of the speculation market, which still, crypto is still a big part of that. I kind of really just am super excited about, just the next month, let alone the end of the year. So yeah, that's my take on things at the moment as an overview.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that start. Okay, Gary, over to you, because Gary, we would like to know your insights in particular. I would like to know, because you've been, I think, a supporter of cash economy, supporter of quantum computing. So I just want to know what you think about tokenized assets.
Yeah, so I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with a 4-star admiral, and I had some, you get different viewpoints. And one of the things we talked about is how the world's going to change in the next 5 years, with China coming up now as the #1 economic superpower. But at the same time, we've got India and Africa, the continent, coming behind it. So the world's definitely changing. And, and he and I had a deep conversation about cash. And I've had, as I said earlier, with a person that's got almost $50 billion in Bitcoins on Monday conversation. So the world's changing very quickly, faster than we can ever imagine. And the democratization opportunities, and to be able, we actually did a transaction. We took Bitcoin, and did payment. It's the first time we did it, but it's a lot easier now than it was before. So um, you know, so Sonny, I mean, quite frankly, in terms of the cash situation, my opinion's changed a bit, based on some of the recent occurrences because of the ease of use,
Yeah.
and Coinbase. So my opinion's changed a bit. I do like cash, there's no question about it. But the other thing is, with the world economically changing so quickly, um, I'm not sure I want to have anybody's cash, to be honest with you. Because think about it, within the US, there's 1.9 trillion dollars are going to be given out for this economic stimulus. There is no way the dollar can stay up. The inflation has to come in, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the rest of the world's like it too. And then so I mean, and then the ability to be able to move money around. I'm not sure I want to have money in any bank. The only thing I am concerned about is, and I'm writing this article on quantum tunneling and terahertz communications. The reason I'm saying that is, quantum's going to have a risk, serious risk for cryptocurrencies, and it's happening now. And you see in the probing take place when you get power grids being shut off in cities like London.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, it's nothing." Well, I'm telling you, there are those systems, nefarious systems out there today, right? That can probe. So we better be careful, really. And I'm not. We have the one thing that I have is actually a new company that I'm involved in does a decentralized cybersecurity. It's
Right.
the first one in the world that does that, and it's a quantum resistant system. The reason I'm saying that, we need to look at those type of aspects, because it's great having cryptocurrencies, but if your wallets get poached, you got a serious problem. So in terms of tokenization of assets, our data is an asset, and tokenizing our own personal data. Think about it. Here we are on Google, all of us, right, every day, and people complain about privacy, and yet at the same time they're using Gmail. Hello, it's in Facebook and LinkedIn, and now Clubhouse, right? So
Yeah.
how do
Clubhouse. That's correct.
and so we complain about things at the same time, so our data is worth something, and it's going to happen where we tokenize our own information, and as there's some type of value derived from it. And that's coming now too. And it's going to be very interesting how quickly that starts to be the norm. Right now, we got Bitcoin. It's amazing actually to see Bitcoin at almost $50,000 per Bitcoin. I don't know what it is exactly, 48, 50, something like that. Right?
In that range. Yeah.
So, and then you got Ethereum on the other side of it, which is, making some substantive changes too. So it's going to be interesting how this thing fares out, what happens with Bitcoin and Ethereum in the long run, so you have all these tokens out there. Who's going to win? Who's
Right.
going to lose? You can't have every one of them, right? I
Yeah.
think there'll be a world currency. There'll probably be two, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they'll keep changing everything. Yesterday, by the way, the mayor of Miami said that they're going to start accepting Bitcoin in Miami as for government, for paying for utilities and that kind of thing. So you see the transition. Virginia Bank, I saw. In fact, you just mentioned it here too. Is starting to allow purchases of Bitcoin. It's incredible, really. I mean, I can be proven to be wrong, and I'm not saying so. I said, I love cash, but when I started to hear some of the feedback, and I start seeing $1.9 trillion being given out, and inflation's got to take place, I don't want to be part of that.
Great. Thank you, Gary, for sharing those insights, because I think it's all about getting the right message across, and it's about educate. I mean, it's a very ever-changing, dynamic space, as you rightly said. Couple of years back, I wouldn't even look at Bitcoin as an investment, but things change very fast, and this market has proven itself against all odds. That's what I think from my experience in this industry for the last couple of years. So yeah.
This Kerman, the guy that I had a conversation with that Tushar knows, one of the things he said, it was very interesting, and during our conversation, he said, I went in the bank, and he said, I've met this nice teller, and she was very nice to me. And I told her, I really like you. Here's a Bitcoin. And she said she didn't want to take it because she, doesn't want to get involved in drugs or anything. And it's worth $40,000, right?
Right.
And so, the challenge is, but it's going to change. It's just, whenever you have new technologies out there, it's going to change. Like e-commerce. I remember we started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies, and people were telling me, there's no way that I'm going to put my credit card on the internet. There's no way that I'm going to do that. It's not going to happen. And this was back in the late 90s or early 2000s. Then we did Walmart's website, American Airlines, Delta, etc. And you could see everything shift very, very quickly. It's a $30 billion cottage industry. And Amazon was selling books, by the way. And they were talking about it. So, we in the beginning we're resistant, then we start to embrace it. Now we can't Zoom, right? 5 years ago when I did Zoom, I would send out the links and people would not join Zoom. They would say, oh, why do I need that? I have Skype. And so here we are, Eric's worth probably $20 billion today.
Absolutely.
No, that's an interesting point Gary made, because if you look at, talking about distribution of like information and stuff, if you look at Amazon, like people think, Jeff Bezos started off as a bookkeeper, but actually something that they did, because eBay was the big one right then, they actually started doing algorithms in terms of actually effectively checking what people were searching and actually starting to do like almost kind of, if you like, the first type of AI in terms of identifying patterns in people's like behaviors and stuff. And then what they did, you use that information to basically streamline. So like the IKEA, where you literally have to go around the whole place to find one thing, they just effectively got rid of all that crap. So they made it an easier interface for people. So you don't have to waste time. You could find what you wanted really, really fast. And because of that, they boomed. And I think that's what this is what this is about. Like the old days, you used to have to go into the bank with like a check. And you used to have to do these like, what was the old days? The bank draft. Do you remember the old days of the bank draft? Poor old Doris would go into the bank on a Friday from the company. She'd be there all afternoon, trying to do all this stuff. Now you can send some money across the world in 2 seconds and it costs you next to nothing. So that's the evolution, by the way, from an AI perspective, from algorithmic math to where we are to semi-supervised, unsupervised AI. And so those pattern recognition have been, for a long time, but now we're starting to get to the point where the AI is unsupervised and actually helps us make decisions. And then you combine that. So the interesting part is when you combine unsupervised artificial intelligence, the tokenization of data, and the massive amounts of data coming at you, then what happens? It'll be like you have an intelligent assistant that's your guardian angel, literally helping you with everything. It'll understand your behaviors and patterns. And, it's like, it'll be interesting. It's beyond a smart assistant. It'll be an intelligent assistant. And at EVA, we had actually developed some of those not intelligent, but smart assistant technologies called, and we use things called the predictive insights. But now because of the massive data, think about how inundated we are. We'll need these systems to be able to help us make decisions. And it's happening right now. It's not going to happen. It is happening. Yeah, no, I agree. And look what Elon, if Elon gets half his wish, right, we'll be half robotic by now. He's almost saying we're basically not effective as human beings. We may as well have a chip on us now that will actually make us more effective and actually help with this, disease and illness and all that stuff. Well, that's it. And the these kind of hyperlink technology. I'm a psychologist too. And one of the things that we did as a clinical psychologist, you understand, that the brain is basically this biochemical activity. And, it's just another way of storing. We do about 60,000 complex transactions in our brain per day. But imagine having the singularity and having these systems, and so like Tesla, right? He could remember everything. He had eidetic imagery because of a seizure he had when he was 6. Well, imagine if you could replicate that and then start to add massive storage capabilities. So that's in the singularities happening. Smart pills, digital watches. It's moving in that direction. It's very interesting, and we're going to live longer. And we're going to have a lot of data around it. We're going to be like one big massive organism.
I mean, that's what's
Yeah.
happening. Right?
Yeah, and I feel Sunny here just coming in that all these governments who are trying to stop this new phenomena which is NFT, DeFi, and cryptos. They forget that if you lag behind in innovation, the markets will tear you down. And just it just strikes me that on the pretext of know your customer KYC, if a new technological innovation is disallowed or banned, then they forget that that very same innovation is based on blockchain, which keeps the records of all the transactions which happened prior, and which is a better way of knowing your customer and the transaction than any other paper way. So I feel that this trend will catch up even more. Uh, Personally speaking, on the blockchain piece, we are very bullish, and we feel that assets can be digitized and put online, and this will be a boon for a number of people who want to transact seamlessly using new technologies. And just like investors initially looked at Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation instead of gold, but what happened was that Bitcoin went 10x as compared to gold, which went nowhere. So just the
Yeah.
same way, NFT will start breaking barriers, and that's when those who are lagging behind will catch up.
Perfect. So, Tushar, we have a question from one of the viewers who is watching the show right now. From Nathan, his question is: will tokenization of assets overtake VCs and investors when it comes to fundraising mechanism for businesses and startups? Let's start with Harsh. The question you can see on your screens.
Correct. So back in 2017-18, this was a real discussion, right? When we had these, ballooning of ICOs, and so many ICOs were being coming out, and they were raising millions of dollars. So within a month long time, they would simply create a public offering, publish a white paper and get it done. So it was there, but unfortunately, it was not regulated, because of which a lot of it kind of went bust, right? So if we can kind of, make put some more guidelines into the process, kind of how LaToken is doing it, right? Get some more guidelines in the process, put some regulation around it, kind of structure the token economy in a much more better way. It could definitely become a huge avenue, right? You look at right now in the US, there's lots of decentralized crowdfunding platforms, which are not just for funding the MVP, but actually buying stocks within the company, right? You can
Yeah.
pay $50, $100 to actually buy equity in the company. They've completely decentralized the entire shareholding thing. So earlier there used to be a criteria, you need to have like $5,000 to be a minimum angel investor in a company. That's completely gone. You can put $50, even $100, and get a share within a company. That's
Right.
how it's getting decentralized, and that's the opportunity which the new age ICOs can provide, right? If you have the right security tokens for that, and
Yeah.
with the right regulation in place, this could definitely change the way how early stage companies are kind of getting funded.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Tushar, your response to this question from our viewer.
I would agree with Harsh that proper protocols have to be set up. Markets have their own animal instincts. If you rein in those instincts, it goes against you. If you don't rein in those instincts, they will. It starts bordering on the criminal side. So that's the force of money, and ultimately, we live in that part of the world where KYC, know your customer, is real issue, because there is issues surrounding money laundering and terrorism as well. So I support use of technology to append KYC issues. And on the specific question of will tokenization of assets overtake VCs and investors when it comes to fundraising mechanism, at some point it will, but it will definitely require protocols and the proper regulations so that entities which are operating in this space are proper and fit. On the other aspect would be volatility. If you are buying something with Bitcoin today and Bitcoin itself is fluctuating between 20,000 to 25,000, how
Yeah.
will you establish proper value? And then it becomes a question of how will you manage your exit? You want to sell your Bitcoin for 25,000, suddenly it falls to 15,000. I mean, so there are serious issues around volatility. There are 21 million Bitcoins which can be mined in totality. Out of that, 18.5 million have been already mined.
Right.
So this will become a big problem because what governments do is they print currency. $12 trillion worth of currency has been printed by governments and central bankers, and they print currency because they want to take advantage of inflation
Right.
because they overspend. And that kind of a phenomena, if it is not available on a digital currency, there would be legal entities, regulators who will try and cut it down. So there has to be just like more currencies have proliferated, and apart from Bitcoin we are seeing other kind of currencies.
Yeah.
So I feel that the move by China of a digital yuan is a welcome step. And India has also passed a bill, or is about to pass a bill, which will create a digital rupee. So ultimately, what will happen is, because there is the total bitcoins which can be mined is only about 21 million. This might prove to be a deterrence, and there would be money which would start eventually moving in digital rupee. And those kind of factors will make it more convenient for market forces to raise funds using these digital factors rather than the old economy, the way of the old economy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Sure.
Sunny, just one point.
Yeah.
Actually, building on Tushar's point, right?
Yeah.
$12 trillion were printed last
Yeah.
year, right, across Europe and US and Australia, right? So, because of that, what has happened is we've seen these meteoric inflation which has happened in these currencies, right? And that
Yeah.
is why people have kind of lost trust in the power of cash, and that is what has kind of driven in the power of cryptocurrencies right now. The fact
Absolutely.
that you can only mine 21 million kind of adds more credibility and more value, because and that more value to it, because it is fixed.
Yeah.
You could kind of compare it to a kind of gold standard, where in the gold standard there was a certain amount of gold that was there, and the currency was allotted to that, right? Even
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, there's an upper ceiling beyond which you cannot go. That kind of
Absolutely.
adds more value to it and more credibility to it compared to the current cash system, which is
Yeah.
basically you can just print it. So that is actually where cryptocurrency creates much more opportunity in the longer run compared to this cash, and that's why people are literally moving away from cash. And
Absolutely.
another side effect of what has
Yeah.
happened is, because of printing random cash, is the high levels of income inequality which is created, right? If you have a fixed upper ceiling, the income inequality which you are seeing in the world right now, it would be substantially well managed and well under control, rather than being completely haywire right now.
Which is good. I mean, this is such a great session to let people know the difference between cash and cryptocurrencies and the benefits of, as you said, it's capped. The mining, there is only so much you can mine when it comes to
Yeah.
Bitcoin. But
Yeah.
cash can be printed indefinitely by the central
Yeah.
bank. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's just one more point. I really like the aspect that there can be fractional ownership. So
Yeah.
if you are creating a asset in the digital form, it can be sold in bits and pieces, and that allows for a lot of financial and legal innovations. Just like if you find it difficult to own some big US stocks like Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, and there is a system which is now allowing fractional ownership. So that is one big case. Another use case uh, which come to my mind is land registries. I mean, land registries are non-digitized in many places in emerging economies. And
Mhm.
if blockchain is used and NFT is used to
Right.
digitize ownership of these land registries, and also educational certificates. I mean, so there is a unlimited. There's one can really imagine that what kind of scenarios it opens up, and the possibilities is NFT opens up for digitizing. Given that there are unlimited amounts of types of assets which are there.
Sure. Thank
So
you, Tushar, for that. I'm just thinking how to take it. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to ask this question. David, about real estate. So, given its historical lack of liquidity and barriers to younger generation, tokenization will open up trade in the real estate market by offering split ownership. So, what can you share about tokenization of real estate as an asset class?
Well, yeah, I'm not an expert in terms of real estate. However, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago that the first property in the US was actually purchased legally through Bitcoin, and that was quite an interesting kind of, I guess, event. I think ultimately, what won't change when it comes to adoption is the practicalities of what we currently have right now. So, I mean, having if you like, a split asset or a split share of an asset isn't a new concept. Timeshares, the things like that. That's not new. I think the difference here is, I think Gary picked up a good point. There's a lack of confidence in having cash. I mean, once upon a time, that was the safe thing. It was kind of, you should always have some cash. Now you're thinking, well, if you look at the US dollar over the last 30 years, it's lost, 90%, 99% of its actually buying power. So it's hugely, it's being depreciated. Inflation has created this huge issue. But nonetheless, it's still the kind of place where most people feel most confident because of systemic risks elsewhere. So I think for me, we're getting to a point where most countries now are starting to embrace that. We've heard that, like in Florida, they're starting to accept Bitcoin. Elon Musk came out the other day, said that you can purchase their vehicles through Bitcoin. There's a lot of places now that are just forcing that innovation. I mean, in another example, I don't know if you guys have heard of this Akon city in Senegal. So Akon, the singer, he's created a coin, and they're building this $6 billion smart city in Senegal. If you look at something like Senegal, like needs creates innovation. In certain, like the UK, maybe some of these more established places like the US, it's harder to innovate on a mass scale because you have this, I guess you have less notional systemic risk. You go to some of these countries like Africa and maybe other countries like India and maybe South America and places like that, they have so many potential issues that it's quick. They have to innovate. They're more open to innovation. I mean, in Africa, they've got something like 50 different currencies, and they're so that their confidence in those currencies are so poor that they would rather put money on their phones, buy credit on their phones, and use that to purchase things. That's how insane it's got over there. So for them to embrace something so revolutionary is not hard because what they've got is so broken, it's so damaged. For someone to turn around and say, hey, we can get away from all this stuff. You can literally put a wallet on your phone and you can literally transact through that. And actually, it's a stable coin. So it's stable against maybe one of the most stable currencies, say the US dollar, which against theirs may be depreciating over a long period of time, but it's not depreciating like 1,000% in a week like some of these others, right? So for them, that's not innovation, that's just survival. And I think we're starting to see this more. So, my country and say the US and some of these other countries, we're going to be last as a general population because we feel like we're in this safety bubble. We don't really know what's going on around the world. So for me, I think this is already happening in some places. It's kind of like a lot of communities do that anyway. A lot of communities, they come in as families and they come in as unity and, they buy stuff and they work together. I don't know what's happened to the first world countries of this world, the more Western, but they're desperate all the time to literally do everything on their own, and they're kind of so singular and they're very, almost pessimistic about things. So yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a longer explanation of what's going on, but yeah, I think there's no stopping this now, right? Yeah. So we're going to see in the future, we're going to see a basket of different currencies, probably some form of an index to help against instability or volatility. We're seeing that with LP plays right now, where you're having stable coins against another asset to keep the volatility down. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's going to be some form of a digital currency for lots of different reasons outside of just money. for audit trails, for referenceability, for all this stuff. How it plays out, who knows? But I guarantee there's a lot of politicians and governments and regulators right now spending a lot of time scratching their heads trying to figure out how they can control all this stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my answer.
Great. Thank you so much, David. Gary, I've got a question for you. It's a very interesting one because I get this question asked a lot when I go on conferences, from people who are visitors. So real estate tokenization, does that mean that a person in Nigeria or maybe India can have a share of that token, which is probably in Dubai, which is probably illiquid and is not accessible right now? So do you think it's going to be possible this year?
Well, I mean, I was involved with a company called Propi, actually, that did cross-border transactions 4 years ago. So, I mean, that's what's going to happen. You can buy property anywhere, and already, I mean, it's already happened. You can do fractional ownership. Look at timeshares.
Yeah.
So it's not like we haven't done it before. So it's just the ease of being able to do it. It's just changing, and it's outside. I mean, think about exactly in the scenario you're talking about now. If I'm in Africa and I want to buy a place in Dubai and I've got a timeshare, right? Think about a timeshare directly. So imagine tokenization of that opportunity, being able to, it's just the ease of use. I don't have to take the paperwork and go back and forth. Like I did before, I got the blockchain and the smart contracts. At the same time, I can very easily transfer the money over and not have to worry about, 5 banks that I've got to go through and that kind of thing. It just makes it a lot easier. And, there's always going to be, on the one side of it, we're going to have the naysayers that say there's criminal activity. And cash, there's criminal activity too, right? So it's not like, the bad guys aren't using cash, suitcase full of cash. So, but the one thing is the accountability, the ability to be able to audit. That's going to be really, really interesting. And it's already happening. Like I said, timeshares are fractional ownership of property. It's not like we haven't done it before. We just make it the digital transformation's upon us, and it's going to happen a lot faster, and it's going to really democratize the opportunity for people around the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to hear that. Thank you so much. It's the same concept, but obviously it's a different model. Thank you so much. Tushar, what are NFTs and how can somebody invest in NFTs?
So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They are unique tokens, which, so suppose there is a unit of gold, then and a token is created for it. It will be a fungible token because that unit is just similar to another NFT which has gold as a backing. But non-fungible token is that it can't be replicated because it's unique. The good part about NFT is that it is digitized. It's based on blockchain, and it has a potential to offer all the transactional seamlessness which sophisticated financial systems offer, but in the hands of the common man, using a simple wallet and simple system. Now, on the dollar piece, I just had a little 2 comments in the end. That right now the world, the global financial architecture is based on Bretton Woods system, which created International Monetary Fund, which created the United Nations, which created Asian Development Bank, and these agencies. And with time, what has happened is that we saw China going from $0.5 trillion economy in 1990s to $14 trillion economy. We saw India going from practically the same $0.5 trillion on a PPP basis to $11 trillion. So, these systems haven't kept pace with the change in technology, especially with the advent of internet. And that's market forces which are, which have the animal spirits in them. They are breaking these structures down, and, governments have to adopt. So, there are some black swan events which I have seen recently, there were some Chinese government companies which defaulted on loans to the Chinese bank because debt to GDP in China has broken 350% figure. Then Russia has moved away from dollar, and it's trading in non-dollar currencies, and the oil and gas sector is going down from $4 trillion. It has now become less than $3 trillion because the innovation happened in lithium ion batteries, in solar panels, in wind turbines. So the petrodollar is weakening the dollar, and we are seeing a lot of competition within economies. So what is a store of value? The
Yeah.
store of value has to be cryptos, gold, and more so NFTs, because they represent very prudent digital form of assets already being under them. So I feel that this is only going to increase, and if we talk about the numbers, I like to give that number again. It is $500 trillion worth of assets which can be converted to NFTs. And I do feel that on the security architecture front, there is some way to go with development of protocols and laws around the whole thing. And once that is done, this market will again explode.
Thank you, Tushar. We're planning to have a workshop on particular some of these hot topics like NFTs, Dogecoins, to educate, to let people know what exactly are NFTs. Thank you so much, Tushar. So besides stocks, currencies, real estate, commodities, what asset classes can be tokenized, and how can we see the benefits of tokenization? Maybe over to, I would say, this question. This is a closing remarks as well, followed up by feedback on VCTV. David.
Thanks, Sunny. Sorry, quick, just give me a quick synopsis of the question again. Sorry.
So we've seen tokenization of asset classes like stocks, currencies, artwork, real estate. So what other asset classes do you think by tokenizing those would be benefited?
Oh, you mean like that could come in the future?
Yeah, 2021, yes, and beyond.
Well, yeah, well, I definitely think NFTs. I definitely think, if you look at kind of things right now, that we can. So like we're in this kind of weird place right now where most of us are semi-locked down. We certainly don't have the same level of freedoms. Yeah. So I think there's going to be two things, right? So as human beings, there's the practical things that we need and we associate to, like, if you like, transactional things that are important. I.e., you have to eat, you have to, pay your bills, you have to be able to do certain things, right? Buy houses. So these are practical things that I think are all going to be tokenized in some shape or form. I think there's going to be some kind of opportunity to have fractional ownership using this stuff, obviously. But the other side is kind of what I'd call more lifestyle. That's where your NFTs come in, and really probably one of the reasons why NFTs have come in. More than anything is because it's come off the back of gaming. So there's so many more people gaming right now than ever before because they're basically stuck at home. They're also come off the back of, I guess, you can't go to a museum, you can't go to an art gallery, you can't go to a theater really anymore. So how are you going to have that user experience? That's kind of like more the, I guess, where I think we're going to see more adoption in terms of, if you like, tokenization, assets being used. So I think, yeah, that's the one reason why I think NFTs are going to be huge. That's probably going to be the one area that has the most boom this year. We're already seeing that with certain projects where you're getting artists and different kind of people coming in and they're creating their own kind of asset that people can then get as a gift or whatever that might be. But, as humans, we're pretty bored people, right? We can get bored really, really soon. and there's only so much you can watch on Netflix. There's only so much you can do. So, there's a company out there called Terra Virtua. I don't have any financial involvement in them, so this is certainly not a plug. But, they started off in the NFT space. But what they're actually doing is they're now looking at kind of user experiences and how they can create some kind of, tokenization of that. So could it be in the future that they take you on a guided tour of, Buckingham Palace, or maybe Trump Towers, or somewhere like people are fascinated about going.
That's a great idea.
Maybe the White House or something like that, right? Where you can have a look all these different rooms, and they can tokenize that in a way where, you know, maybe if you purchase the White House NFT, it gives you X amount of access to a certain amount of rooms. Now that type of idea, that type of ideation, people are going to be interested in that, because you're sat on your ass most of the time thinking, what can I do? Now this is an opportunity where that's something interesting, right? And would you buy into that? Probably, because people go there, they spend thousands of dollars to fly, hang out in hotels and all this stuff. Well, if you can't do that, how do you replace it? So that's what I kind of see. I think the virtual reality. So Gary, I love this, because I think AI, virtual reality, anything to do with user experience, you know, that's going to become way more mainstream. People are a lot more comfortable here. I foresee in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, instead of people going to offices every day, I think they'll be putting on these VI screens or some kind of user, and you'll be in a room with your colleagues and you'll be doing whiteboarding. You'll be doing all of the stuff effectively that you would be doing in an office, but you don't have to travel there. You don't have to worry about like breathing on each other, whatever's going on, and you can be just as effective, and it's fun. Could you imagine what's fun about getting up in the morning at 7 to drive for 2 hours through traffic to get to an office, to work 8 hours, to then do all that way, when you can actually get up and you can wear your PJs, right? And you literally create your own icon, your own emoji, whoever you want to be, and you have a first 10, 15 minutes just going to have fun, right? And then you're just going to, that's fun. That's the world we're going to come into. So that's going to be the next innovation, I think. So if anybody wants to build that with me, feel free. I'm up for it.
Yes, absolutely. Now that we've been living this lockdown or semi-virtual, like whatever you're saying, world, we realize how much time we're saving. Gary, over to you with the closing remarks for the topic.
I mean, so the you know, the world's changing. The democratization of opportunities upon us, and you know, we have to be careful not to be resistant to the change, because it's upon us. And the countries or companies or individuals that resist the change are going to be left behind, because as the market surges and they're not involved in it, you know, their purchasing power dramatically will go down very quick, as we're seeing right now. So anyhow, you can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, Twitter. I have a couple of shows. Tune in. Next week, I have the mayor of Miami Beach on, so it'll be interesting talking about what's happening with Bitcoins and things there. So tune in. Great to be here.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gary. Harsh, over to you.
Sure. So I see a lot of application for this in the healthcare space, right? During the COVID times, the supply chain and the logistics were completely messed up, and everything was extremely heavily dependent on China, right? If we can introduce smart contracts and facilitate, set it up in the supply chain and logistics side, not just in the healthcare space, but also in agri and other crucial spaces, the opportunities in this space could be limitless, because the current system is extremely paper based, and there's lots of gaps, lots of manual interventions is there. Once you kind of put it over there through the digitized blockchain panel, it's going to completely revolutionize it, right? So I actually see this just as revolutionary as probably WordPress was in the internet age, right? So before WordPress came, you would have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a website set up, right? And once WordPress came, you could get it for a few $100 at best. That's how cheap it became suddenly, and everything was like free and open, and it was a huge ballooning of these websites all over the place on WordPress. That is what this opportunity is right now. We are at the cusp of something really huge, and if we can truly, take advantage of this opportunity right now, especially in the supply chain and logistics space, even in cross-border money transfers. Just about 10 years back, a cross-border money transfer would cost between 5 to 8%. Then PayPal came in, brought down the prices to 4%. Now, currently, you have TransferWise doing it for 2.5%. If you include smart contracts and blockchain technology to facilitate cross-border transfer, it's going to be significantly cheaper. So the opportunities are about. We are only limited by our imagination of how we truly, come up with something brilliant over here. So,
sorry, go ahead.
So, no worries. So I would just like to summarize, the session over here, and as usual, great to be a part of this family, having Tushar, Gary, Sony, and David as well, meeting him for the first time, and hopefully a lot more times in the future.
Great.
And you can reach me on LinkedIn at Harsh Shetia. Always happy to help.
Sure. Harsh is a part of the family, VCTV family. You can always reach out to Harsh via VCTV. I think totally agree. Supply chain tokenization, trade finance tokenization is another area that is going to be disrupting the traditional finance space. Thank you so much. Next closing remarks. Yeah, Tushar, and we close the show after this. But I think we had a discussion right in the beginning that somebody is going to dance and somebody is going to sing. So after your closing remarks, just have a quick round of.
Okay,
Sunny, I feel my songs should be converted into NFT and they should be sold in an auction. And while they are being sold, Gary should be dancing, just like he saw Indians dance on the roads when he came here. So it's
Come
a
on,
Friday.
come on, one big group dance. Jimmy, chunga, chunga.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys heard the song for a couple of years ago, Ian Bellina, but maybe we could do that one. We could sing the "Going to the Moon in my Lambo." I don't know. That sounds a little bit too corny, but if you want to check that out,
I'm a great singer. I'm very gonna shake now. Gary, it's a good pair.
My closing remarks are VCTV rocks. It'll keep on rocking. I started coming here, I think 3 to 4 months back, and I've seen explosion in viewership, and the numbers are amazing. And I typically after every show, just like Gary said, a lot of companies approach me. I am available on LinkedIn, Tushar Kansal, and I help companies raise from $0.5 million to $5 million. So you are welcome to approach me, and I'm very bullish on NFT, and I wish this part of the world adopts it as fast as it is being adopted elsewhere. And Sunny, you are a great moderator. Thank you so much all
Thank
the
you
time.
so much, guys. Okay, let's to finish off, David and Gary. We have to make this before we go offline.
We need a dance. We need a dance.
Okay, go ahead. We're ready to go.
Gary,
Yes, go on, start.
Gary, take it back.
Go
I
ahead.
think
Yeah.